Mr. Jason Perrier. He is the Director of College Place and Student Success with Education Credit Management Corporation. Welcome, Mr. Perrier.
Thank you, Janet. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Jason Perrier. I am going to share my screen with you all shortly. And the first slide is just to collect information from you all, and it's completely voluntary. If you are not receiving information from the College Place, and if you have not been in touch with me before, you can scan this QR code and sign your student up. Students hear from me most during their senior year of high school. We talk a lot about financial aid, post-secondary opportunities, one of which are opportunities in career and technical education, which is the focus of this evening's presentation. But you don't have to sign up if you don't want to. But if you scan the QR code or click or use the bit.ly link to sign up, use your students' information first. And for parents, you'll list your information after that, as I will primarily be in touch and communicate directly with students. So this evening, we'll be talking about career and technical education, which is one of the opportunities and pathways that's for your students as they come to the conclusion of their high school careers. And part of this was spurred by a survey that another part of my company did, which is called Question the Quo. It focused on Gen Z and their attitudes about opportunities that are available to them after high school. And what we found was that, especially during the pandemic, students were 22% more likely to want to attend a career and technical opportunity after high school. And part of that was because the credentials line up directly with the job. And because of the pandemic, Gen Z saw how unstable the market could be for job holders without education after high school, and they wanted credentials that lined up very quickly with secure employment. 56% of students believe that a skill-based education, so something that is training them practically for what they'll be doing in the workforce, makes sense in today's world. And 47% of students agree that a short-term program, so something that can be completed in 2 years or less, makes the most sense for them right now. And these represent not very drastic changes, but substantial changes in what students thought, especially pre-pandemic. So what is career and technical education? It is a post-secondary educational pathway. One of the reasons that we highlight it as an opportunity is for high school or for individuals that only have a high school education or a GED. They are boxing themselves out from 80 to 85% of the job opportunities that will be available to them. 80 to 85% of the jobs require at least some education beyond high school, but not every job requires you to have a 4-year degree. That's where one pathway through career and technical education could be a great opportunity and the right fit for students who are looking for that shorter term certification, that training and education that they would need to be able to start a job fairly quickly and to earn a living wage to be able to do so. The coursework focuses on a specific skill. So unlike pursuing an associate's degree or a four-year degree where you're taking general area requirements, your English and mathematics, lab science classes in addition to your major courses, the courses in career and technical education are focused on one area very specifically. And it leads to credentialing in this specific field, and it prepares students to be job ready once they complete that program. Here's some facts about career and technical education very broadly. So the U.S. Department of Education is reporting that individuals in the trades are more likely to be working in their field of study than those who are earning other academic credentials, which makes sense to a degree when you think about it, because if you're going into a program that is preparing you very specifically for a certain job, it makes sense that you would be working in that career field once you earn that credential. As you can see, the cost is one factor that's driving students in this direction, especially during the pandemic. Students became much more aware of the amount of student loans that individuals may have to borrow to pay for post-secondary education. And on average, trade certification costs $33,000 to complete, while on average, a bachelor's degree could cost $127,000 altogether. If a student doesn't graduate on time within 4 years, it takes them 5 or 6 years to finish a program. Those student loans will add up. And especially for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, as they become more aware of what post-secondary education may cost them, they're opting for options that gives them a lower student debt balance, if any, but provides them an opportunity to work and earn a sustainable wage as well. And right now, we're projected to need 3 million workers that will be needed to improve, renovate, design, create our nation's infrastructure. And that's where a lot of career technical education opportunities come into play. That's what these credentials will lead students into in terms of careers in transportation, housing, construction, utilities, broadcast communications, telecommunications, and more. So there's a lot of variety as well in terms of what's available to students. The question is, what's the right path? And just like going directly into a four-year school after graduation is not the right path for everyone, pursuing a career in terms of career and technical education is not the right direction for everyone as well. But there's a few different ways that you can get to a CTE program that makes the most sense for you if that's the direction that the student is choosing to take after they complete their high school education. First, you can get some CTE certifications through your high school. There may be programs that are available to you. Go to your college and career counselor at your high school to ask them about those opportunities, especially if the school system is paying for it. That's one way to save money in terms of getting access to a career technical education certification program. And so I encourage students and families to really explore that if that's the direction that the student wants to go in. I'd also encourage them to think about exploring opportunities that are stackable. It's a term within the education access space that really highlights the benefits that some CTE programs offer. And what I mean by stackable is that it's a credential that if a student chooses to pursue their post-secondary education further beyond that CTE program, that if it's stackable, that means that they won't necessarily lose time or credits in the process. They could use what they've already earned through their credentialing earlier to make progress towards an associate's degree as that next step in their educational journey. Community colleges host and offer a lot of career and technical education programs. So just because a student wants to go the CTE route, that doesn't mean their local community college isn't the best place for them to start. Usually when you're comparing and contrasting the price points between a community college and a career technical school, the community college is going to have the lower cost. So as you're thinking about CTE, there's no right path or exact path that you have to take depending on the field. You may be able to pursue the education while you're still in high school. You may be able to get the credential through your local community college. You may also have options through a career or trade school. But these are options that are out there that are for you. The career and technical schools can be nonprofit or for-profit. So as you're doing your exploration and making sure that your program leads you to the skills you need for your field, also pay attention to what their status is, whether it's attached to a community college, whether it's a for-profit institution. And I'm not here to say that one direction is better than the other. I just want students and families to be educated about the total cost that they'll be undertaking in terms of pursuing these credentials. And last but not least, our apprenticeships, which are programs which I know there is a strong and growing apprenticeship program available to students through Prince William County Schools that gives you the hands-on experience and gives you the training, but also pays for that. So it's a cost savings that lines you up with that job placement after you finish with that certification. So explore all of the opportunities that are available through CTE if this is the direction you're choosing to go after you finish with your high school education. And I'm going to continue hitting on this point a few more times. Is CTE right for you? There are some career technical education fields that offer a high wage job. Those jobs tend to require a high level of skill. And either the entry point in terms of the credentialing is a little bit higher in other CTE fields, or you have to continually re-credential or re-up your credentials as you work within your field. So that's something else to consider. Sometimes the credentialing just doesn't stop at the entry point for your job within the career or CTE field. Sometimes you have to continue working on credentialing as you go through and move up in your career. But these are the skills that you see on the screen that CTE focuses on developing for their students. And if you're not sure if CTE is the right path for you, there are assessments like the one here on my screen that you can use to see and try it out to see if it's a good fit for you in terms of what's next after high school. These are the different career clusters. There is some CTE fields will only fit into one of these areas, like agriculture, human services, for example. Others may cross across different sectors, but these were organized by the U.S. government in terms of what makes the most sense. But these are all the different areas that CTE is available as an educational opportunity for students to pursue. And then here are all those same fields just listed out in written form. So CTE fields are also referred to as middle skill occupations. And what are they? There are jobs that require more than a high school diploma, but less than a bachelor's degree. As I mentioned earlier in my presentation, many of the jobs that Gen Z will be going into after they finish high school require at least some education beyond high school. What kind of jobs fall into these categories? You see here on the screen: electrician, dental hygienist, paralegal, police officers. Um, and you can go all these different routes: community college, career school, trade school, go through an apprenticeship program to get these educational credentials to get you trained up for these positions. And again, there's no one path that you have to follow to get credentialed to be able to go into these fields. Again, I encourage you, especially if you are exploring CTE and you have only explored one avenue, say the apprenticeship avenue, that I want you to be aware of that there are other avenues that you can pursue to get to that credential that may be a better fit for you in terms of what you need in terms of your time. Think about the commitment that you're making to the program that you're signing up for, but also what it's going to cost. It's hard to beat an apprenticeship because usually they don't cost anything and they may pay you to participate in the program. But I'm just using that as an example to really read into what the programs are asking of you and what they're providing to you as you make your way through them. As of right now, these are the fastest growing occupations nationwide. I will say the number of jobs that are available go with the market. So what I'll show here is that for solar installers, 2 years ago, the growth rate was projected to be 46%. And so in some of these career fields, there can be a drastic change in the growth rate percentage for these jobs. But the median pay is right here, and you see what the credential is that's required. So for solar installers, there's just a technical training program, and the median pay is just over 46,000 a year. For someone interested in becoming a wind turbine technician, it pays $10,000 more, but you can't be scared of heights. So as you're looking at these programs, look at what they require you to do from a physical standpoint. CTE programs can be more labor intensive, although that's not always the case in terms of the career fields. But make sure you understand what the job is going to ask of you on a day-by-day basis. While the pay may seem enticing, make sure you can handle the workload that comes along with it, because some of these jobs can be really demanding in terms of the time they ask you to commit to the role. And in the same breath, these are in terms of the number of jobs over the next 10 years where we're projected to see the most need. When it comes to home health and personal care aides, just think about the population of the US. It's an aging population. You've got baby boomers that are entering into retirement age, and the life expectancy in the US has expanded greatly over the last 4 or 5 decades. But the health and personal care uh, aids that are needed are not there. So there's a lot of opportunities, but the pay also reflects that. And there's a low entry point in terms of the amount of education you need. But if it's something that you are passionate about, say you really want to help people, the reason that I mentioned credentials being stackable is maybe you start off as a home health aide, but you want to become a CNA, and then you want to become a registered nurse, and then you want to become a nurse practitioner. Those credentials are available to you to stack all the way through, and then each additional level of education that you stack on top of the last secures you a higher level of pay and more secure employment for the long term as well. So you can see from here, 29,000 to a registered nurse, median pay is 77, and then nurse practitioners, which requires a master's degree. So you're stacking credential on top of another over 120,000 a year. And I mention this a lot when I'm meeting with students who may be, because of the pandemic or because of home, they feel burnt out by the educational system, and they feel discouraged by the idea of thinking they have to do 2 years or 4 years or 6 years right away of full-time education right after they finish with high school. Some students are ready for that, others are not. And for those that are not, though, if they have an interest in continuing learning, that's where the idea of stackable credentials holds strong appeal for them. And so I encourage you, as you think about this, don't just think about that first entry into a CTE field. Think about what comes next and the additional credentialing that you may have to take anyway for your employment, but also how that can secure you better financially for the future. These are the 3 areas where we're expecting to see the most growth in terms of employment outlook. So IT, about 15% growth on average over the next few years. Healthcare, like I mentioned in my previous slide, with the amount as our population ages, there's going to be a greater need for healthcare practitioners at all levels in terms of educational attainment. And then construction and extraction is still projected to grow, but this is one area that has actually seen a large decrease. In previous years, construction and extraction, in terms of the jobs that are available, were closer to healthcare and IT. There's just not as many jobs projected to be available over the next few years as there were in the most recent few preceding years. So let's start with IT. You can go into IT through a CTE program and secure yourself with a job that pays you relatively well for the amount of education that you need to get access to that field. What I will say is that for more competitive positions, credentialing and the difference between the credential that you have and another person has could make a difference in how long you stay within that field. So I encourage you, if you're going the IT route, think about the continual process of making sure you're recredentialing or adding additional credentials as you go along in this process. You can stack credentials as you move through IT, but that's one area where you shouldn't be stagnant in your learning. Even if you use a short-term certification to get your foot in the door in this career field, and even though there's a large amount of projected growth in this field, it's one of those areas where if you're not learning, you're falling behind. So make sure that you're paying attention to that if CTE is the right direction for you, you understand the way that the market works within your career field and what you have to do to maintain your position as an employee as you work your way through your career. Healthcare, again, there's a large amount of growth projected. One of the greatest area of needs is for nurse practitioners. NPs are able to prescribe medications for their patients, but it is an area that requires you to go to graduate school. So it's education beyond a bachelor's degree. As I mentioned in a slide, 2 slides ago, with personal care aides, as our population ages, there's going to be much greater need for them to be available to help our fellow citizens and everyone living in the U.S. as we get a little bit older. to live and to sustain their lives within their construction and extraction. Again, this is one area that has changed, and sometimes you'll see that within certain CTE fields. One year over another, the job projections may look vastly different. So before you choose your career field, I would take a look at the last few years, so maybe the last 4 or 5 years, to see if the job growth has been steady, if projected jobs has increased year over year, every year for the last 4 or 5 years. That's a good trend, because you can expect that trend generally to continue um, moving forward. The reverse is true for construction and extraction. The last few years, the job availabilities, while they're still growing, the projections have declined over the last few years. And it's just something to be aware of. It's not to discourage you from pursuing this pathway, but as with everything, when it comes to post-secondary education, I want the students and families that are pursuing and choosing these options to be as well informed as possible before the student makes the decision, and especially before they commit money, if they're having to pay for these credentials to move into these career fields. But these are different pathways that are available to students as you think about CTE. So there are career clusters where you may find jobs. If you do really well in calculus, physics, and chemistry, but say that high school overall hasn't been the best for you. Maybe you have struggled to maintain a 1.5 to 2.0 GPA. That doesn't mean you're not academically gifted. That means that you have an opportunity through CTE to allow your gifts to shine through in a way that traditional education might not have given you the opportunity to do. And if you have these strengths, these different career fields, so construction, electrician, HVAC mechanic, could hold strong appeal for you because you have strength in these areas, and these skill sets line up with career fields in this area. You'll see for business, same kind of high school classes, and health and medicine, same kind of classes line up with potential careers on the far right-hand side. Again, this is about educating yourself about the opportunities that are out there. I think that for any student, no matter how successful or not they may feel they have been in high school, there are opportunities for them in post-secondary education after they finish high school. It's about finding the best fit for them and making sure that their interests and skills and strengths line up with what they're doing. So more on CTE, so computer and information technology. This just shows the difference between where the credentials that you can pursue through CTE and the different salaries that you can get as you stack credentials and go along. So entry level, computer software development, computer support. These are usually short-term certifications. You can see entry level pay here. But as you stack those credentials, make progress towards an associate's degree, you can increase your salary. And then even beyond that, a master's degree, graduate school, every step up take educationally tends to, not always, but guarantees for the most part a higher salary as you continue educating yourself. Media and communication arts is another CTE pathway. It's important to recognize that not all industries are created equal, and some shorter term certifications don't necessarily come with as strong of a salary base. And one of the things that we emphasize through our programming and sharing information about CTE is that we give information about all the pathways that are available. But again, I want students to not go in with false notions or with bad information about what their outcomes are. So if $12,000 is not a sustainable wage for you, maybe a certificate in animation is not the right pathway. But if it's your dream, maybe a bachelor's degree is a better direction to go in. Maybe there's additional credentialing that you can get to increase your salary. But again, I want students to know what the reality is and what the averages are in their career fields. Law and public safety. I was just meeting with a student earlier this afternoon that has a broad interest in law enforcement. She's thinking about maybe going to law school one day, but wants to start off in the field. And she's not sure if she wants to be a police officer, crime scene investigator. So we talked about the different avenues she could take. You could do a short-term certification or associate's degree program that gives you the credentialing to start off in your career field right away. Can you see the salary that would be available to you if you take that route? If you continue with your education, either with a stackable credential or go for a bachelor's degree or beyond, your salary tends to increase. But these are the different directions you can take within law and public safety with a broad interest in law enforcement and what careers are available for that after high school. This is engineering and industrial technologies. So again, depending on the type of job, uh, for automotive collision repair, uh, the educational requirement may be a certification, might be an associate's degree or less, but salary estimate is a little bit low compared to plumber, pipe fitter, steam fitter. You can see the numbers here. But this is one of those areas where there's scientific engineering knowledge that you apply. All the knowledge that you gain through your program is really focused literally on hands-on skills. So how do you piece things together? How do you repair whatever it is the focus is of your program? These are all areas that are available to you. If you have a strong background in mathematics and natural sciences, like I mentioned earlier, mathematics, physics, chemistry, maybe AP or dual enrollment wasn't your thing in high school. That doesn't mean it's not a strength. That doesn't mean it can't line up with an educational opportunity for you after high school as well. Within agricultural and natural resources, these are some of the different jobs you can get within that field. Again, entry requirements or certificate or associate's degree. You see the different salary ranges that are available here. These are all estimates. These salary ranges do change sometimes year over year, and depending on the location, I think more for this area than others. Sometimes location can change the salaries that you'll see within these career fields as well. Business management is the next slide. So if you took classes in high school that were focused on business or economics and personal finance, and you really like that, and maybe a four-year degree isn't the pathway that you want to take after high school, go for a certificate or an associate's degree program that highlights those skills and allows you to work in those fields. These are some of the different areas that you can work in with those shorter term certifications. In education and in training, if you want to go in education, but maybe you're not sure if you want to be a teacher, there are many different areas of education that you can go into. These are the salary estimates that come along with certificate or associate degree as an entry point. Again, some of this can be dependent upon literally your geographic location after you finish your program. But within education, these programs tend to be easily stackable. So say you get a certification or associate's degree as your entry point. One, check with the place that employs you. Maybe there's some educational benefits they're able to provide you to allow you to get that additional credentialing, increase your salary as you gain that additional experience educationally. Fine and applied arts is our next category. These are some of the jobs that are available in that area. Required credential, salary estimates that are here. Consumer education is our next category. Keep pushing through. I'm not going to stop on every slide. So these are all the pathways that are available within CTE. So there's a lot to explore. That's one of the reasons that I enjoy giving this presentation. Especially for me, I wasn't as well versed in career and technical education opportunities before I came to the college place, and I didn't know all the options that were available to students as well. I've mentioned a few times the idea of investigating whether or not the credential that you're pursuing is stackable. Chris is an example here on our screen about how you can have a general interest in a career field, but maybe money's really tight or educational opportunities that you're seeing after high school are asking you to borrow too much money or more money than you're comfortable borrowing to pay for a post-secondary credential. Don't let that discourage you from that career field. Especially if you know that you don't want to go to the traditional path of 4-year schools right after high school. You want to take your time, maybe work as you stack your credentials. You can do that and still achieve your ultimate goal of getting that associate's degree or that bachelor's degree or that advanced degree in that career field. Nursing, career, and education as a pathway is a great example of that. You can move from being a CNA to an RN, LPN to MP. You can even get your PhD in nursing. And these are all credentials if you're working for a hospital system, a medical facility. As you move along in your career, you can continue getting additional education, which is what Chris does here in our example. And as you stack those credentials, again, your salary increases as you go along. Our next example is within HVAC. So Josh, maybe you have a job in high school that is giving you exposure to this career field already. I would recommend that you get some credentialing, either through high school or after. One, to give you a stronger reason to have command a stronger salary in your career field. But also think about what could come along with stacking additional credentialing with your career field. I think a lot of times people think about HVAC, they think that once you get that initial certification, that's where everything stops in that field. And it can be, and you can earn a really good living based on that single credential or a couple of credentials. But that is an area where you can continue pursuing an education up to a bachelor's degree or into graduate school. And again, as you do uh, pursue that additional credentialing, your salary increases as you go along as well. IT is our next example for Trevor. Again, these are all examples of individuals that know they want some education after high school and may ultimately have a goal of pursuing a bachelor's degree, but 4 years full time right after high school just isn't their path. And that's okay. Um, Go in, get your short term certification. It may be 12 months versus a 6-month certification for the areas. That's one of the things I mentioned earlier within CTE. There's different time requirements for some of these credentials. It might be 12-week certification in one area, 6-month certification in another. There may be a year-long certification that you have to pursue. As an example, within IT, the computer support program that Trevor pursued took him 12 months to pursue. But as he's working, he continued working on his bachelor's degree as he gained experience in his career field, and that allowed him to move from earning 58,000 a year with an entry level certification to 81,000 on average with his bachelor's degree. These are different resources that are available within the Commonwealth of Virginia. So if you want more information on career and technical education, I encourage you to do your research. Use these sites, ask questions if you think that CTE is the right pathway for you after high school. Go to your college and career counselor. They're not just a resource for students who want to go directly into a 4-year school after graduation. They're a resource for you because it's college and career are both in their name. So if CTE is the pathway that you're pursuing after your high school journey ends, utilize that resource that you have right there at your school to help you figure out which direction you want to go in. Take advantage of the internship, apprenticeship programs that are available through your county. A lot of the great thing about all these resources that I'm mentioning is that they're all free to you. So I would take advantage of them while you're in high school and get access to these resources face to face. This is the next slide of what's available through the higher education system within Virginia. Some of the funding that's available for you may be available just simply through filling out your FAFSA, so your free application for federal student aid, or there may be an additional application that you have to fill out for some of these funding sources. These websites will give you access to that information. Again, if you have questions, start with your college career counselor. Since a lot of these programs are available through our community college system, if they're unsure, if you're still unsure, go to your local Nova campus and ask them for more information about that as well. This is the outlook in terms of jobs and the educational attainment that's going to be necessary to get them. The data, I don't have data more recent than 2018. That's one of the things the pandemic messed up for us in terms of data collection. There's not as much great data out there yet, but generally, I would say this information still holds true. As you can see here, most of the jobs require some training beyond high school. Only 16% of the jobs that are going to be available to you after you finish your high school degree require only that as a credential in terms of entering into the workforce for those positions. Almost half of the jobs require some education beyond high school. CTE programs fit the vast majority of that need. So you don't have to pursue a four-year degree if you're worried about becoming employable and staying employable for your career. So you can pursue a shorter term certification and still there'll still be jobs available for you, as you see on the second half of this slide. In terms of where the job openings are, I know the availability has changed since 2018, but this is the most recent year that we have data available in the state. And then there's a video, I won't play it here, but U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics is an area where I drew a lot of information for this presentation from. So if you have more questions or if you want to do more research, use the slides or the links from the slides that I showed earlier in the presentation. Go to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, ask questions of your college and career counselor, go to your local community college, ask them for information about the CTE programs they have available, be as well informed as possible before you commit to the direction that you go in within CTE. And last but not least, if you have any questions at any point, I'm also available to you as a resource. For those of you who are unaware of the College Place, it's a college access center that's physically based in Alexandria, but I work with students and families all throughout the Commonwealth on all things post-secondary education, including career technical education, associate's degree programs, bachelor's degrees, graduate schools. We spend a lot of time talking about funding, how you pay for all these opportunities. And the best part about my job is it's all free. ECMC pays me, and then I'm here as a resource for students and families to help them find their best fit, and hopefully a way to pay for it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Puryear, for joining us tonight. This is great information that our families can use. And so I will be sending out a follow-up email with Mr. Puryear's presentation, and as well as just the link to this recording. So if you want to go back and watch it. For now, we will be putting a survey link in the chat. This is just for you to provide your feedback on tonight's presentation and any future presentations you may be interested in. And so again, thank you to Mr. Puryear, our interpreters, and everyone that assisted tonight. And everyone, I hope you have a great evening. Thank you so much.